Noted psychologist Robert B Cialdini categorizes the principles of influence as follows: reciprocation, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity. Let's examine each of the six principles in more detail, beginning with reciprocation. People tend to give back what they've received. If you show respect toward others, most often they show respect back. As a leader, if you have the backs of your staff during difficult times, when you need them to comply with your request, to stay engaged even when the organization needs them the most, they will repay your previous support of them. This principle is perhaps the most universal of all as it cuts across cultures. And we see it play out regularly, including during salary negotiations. Let's say your first salary offer to an employee in line for a promotion included a 10% raise. It was rejected by your employee because the employee wanted a 15% raise. If you increase the potential raise to 12%, the rule of reciprocation suggests that your employee will now make a concession and request something smaller than a 15% raise, perhaps 13%. Then finally, you may reach consensus when you meet in the middle for a raise in the neighborhood of 12.5%. I am sure that we have all traded concessions with a negotiation partner, since the rule of reciprocation plays out throughout many aspects of our lives. While you need to understand how this rule plays out in the workplace, we should be careful that influence skills do not cross a line and become manipulative skills. For instance, a less ethical leader could build a fraudulent case based on unrealistic demands and try to give the appearance of concessions by backing off requests that were never genuine in the first place. We should all strive to be more influential and apply our skills in ethical ways. Commitment and consistency is the second principle of influence. When we make our commitments active or public, when we walk the talk, we are more likely to engage in future actions that are consistent with our public commitments. Politicians understand this. They ask potential voters to wear buttons, display lawn signs. Why? After you make public commitments such as these, when you're in the privacy of the voting booth, you're much more likely to vote for the candidate represented on the buttons or signs. We like to see ourselves as rational and consistent. In organizations, our words become part of a public record. When you can encourage action by reminding folks of ideas they have expressed in the past, or actions they have taken consistent with actions you are advocating, there's a strong likelihood that they will comply with your request. The third principle of influence is social proof. We are influenced by what like others do. As leaders, we can support our strategic direction by suggesting that our competitors or peers are doing something similar. And when we do that, the likelihood of being influential greatly improves. The highest level of similarity should generate the strongest degree of influence. I recall a time when I worked at a pediatric hospital. When we would benchmark our hospital against others, arguments suggesting that we should behave similar to others were most influential when the comparative data came from other pediatric hospitals rather than community or large university hospitals. The fourth principle of influence suggests that we are more influential when people like us. There are many factors that contribute to liking. Some we have little control over. For instance, we tend to like people we find physically attractive. The recognition of similarities between two people can lead to each liking the other. Finally, we like people who give us genuine praise. What does all this mean for one's leadership practice? Identify and acknowledge points of similarity. Perhaps a direct report is going through a difficult time similar to one you went through earlier in your career. Talk to your direct report about this similarity. This is particularly effective when your previous experience ended on a high note that could be repeated in the situation faced by your staff member. Acknowledging this similarity promotes liking and possibly influence. Further, when people deserve praise, praise them in measured and appropriate ways. Be authentic. People appreciate genuine praise and develop positive views toward the source of the praise. And bottom line, when people like you, they will be predisposed to your influence. The next principle is authority. We defer to experts, people who have experience, credentials, and well-rounded perspectives. They can see issues from multiple points of view and can construct and articulate arguments based on their expertise. For leaders to be influential, it is important to make your expertise visible to your audience. Let them know how and why you have earned the right to speak on a topic. Maybe it relates to years of experience, discipline studied, or adversity you overcame. Don't assume people know. And go the extra step. Give them a glimpse into your critical thinking. Let people know how you arrived at a conclusion, the backing behind an assertion. Most likely, that backing will be informed by your unique expertise. The final principle of influence is scarcity. We want most what we can't have and what we stand to lose. This principle helps answer the question, when a leader is advocating change, do the targets or sponsors of change respond more strongly to arguments highlighting the gain from changing in the desired direction, or the potential loss by not changing? The answer is loss. As a communication consultant, when coaching executives pitching a new strategic direction, I frequently suggest they switch the frame of their pitch from a gain scenario to a loss scenario, emphasizing what the organization will lose if their recommendation is not followed. This rationale may seem counterintuitive, but if you apply it, your success rate for pitching change will greatly improve.